to the last part, hopefully. We are going to look at making that color adjustment to the grass that I forgot to do in the last part. We're going to add one bench and add a few people and see the different kind of variations we can do with all of those. So first, to leave where we left off, I'm going to grab that grass patch, this one, and this is something I learned recently, so it might not work out perfectly, but I'm going to go up to the image, make those adjustments. Okay. Oh, sorry, that is actually highlighting the clipping mask, so make sure you're on that actual image itself, and go up here to image, adjustments, hue, saturation, and you can make it darker or lighter. Making it darker because it's just a bit too vibrant for me. And reducing that saturation just a little bit though. That looks decently well for me. Makes it look a bit less SketchUp-like with that very vibrant green grass and blue sky. You can also see though that because the stone floor has that grass, that the grass on top of the stone floor, it didn't change the saturation, so I would suggest changing the saturation before you go over that stone floor and bring the grass up over the walking surface. For now, let's go back to this small patch of grass and do about the same thing. Ideally, you would remember exactly which numbers you changed it to, but I'm just going to eyeball it for the sake of this tutorial. That looks decently right. Now let's try doing that stone floor since it is really bright, and this first business facade gives the impression that it's almost like almost sunset. Yeah, that looks fine for me, and it actually adjusted pretty nicely the grass that is coming up over that stone path. And while we're at it, let's look at Fat Face business facade and try to make that adjustment as well. There are many different ways that you can edit things. I'm just using hue and saturation because that is what I know best, but of course you can play around with those different settings. Image adjustment. Alright, so that looks pretty good for what we need it for. And at this time, I'm actually going to delete that base image because I'm beginning to look at those details, and you can see I've made some errors. So what am I going to do about that? Haven't quite decided. There can be a couple different ideas of how to fill in those places. I'm going to try to go to that first off to this asphalt siding here and try to use the cloning stamp and see what we can do. So it looks like it cut off there because I used that clipping mask on it. I'm sure that there is a way to edit a clipping mask. I honestly don't know that method yet, so hopefully someone else knows and wants to share that information with me. Because this happened, and going up here too, this just goes to show how much overlap it is important to use when doing that clipping mask, because it can create problems like this, including even here along the path in the grass. You can see a separation there. So I didn't do great on that part. I'm just going to add that base image back into it, but I would fix something like that if this were an actual rendering for an assignment. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and add people into, I'm going to add a bench into this drawing right now. And there's something interesting about this bench because, as you can see, it is going it's at the wrong perspective of what I want it to be. So I'm going to open it up into its own Photoshop file. Let's see the best way of doing this. Here, I'm going to go into New Tab. And sorry, but gotta go through here to find that image again. Yeah, that didn't really work. I'm just going to try to drag it up into here. Yeah, okay, so that brought it to its own tab, which is good because what we're going to do right now is select it and then go to Image, Image Rotation, and flip canvas horizontally. And now you can see it is, in fact, at the same angle, or close to the same angle as my rendering. I'm going to copy and paste, just copy it. Copy, and then paste it into here. Now, of course, it still doesn't fit, and even if I do Command T and then resize, it still doesn't look perfect. I'm gonna ideally put it up against that asphalt building over here, so I'm just resizing it to be about the right size of what I want, but can go ahead and change that at any moment. Press Enter to get out of that and begin the distortion. Now, this bench is pretty dark up against that wall, and I probably would choose a different color bench, or I could even change the color of it myself. Well, you know, because I am in Photoshop, and that's something that you can do in Photoshop. So let's try it. Image, adjustments, hue and saturation, and maybe just bring up the lightness of it. Well, that looks pretty bad, but something like that. Now it's kind of a red bench and not perfect in that distortion, but it's something that you can change yourself. All right. Now we're gonna go into the layers and put that bench into the bench layer. I'm gonna go ahead and add people now. Now, because this is realistic drawing, it's important to use realistic people. Like I said, stay consistent. But that doesn't really mean that you are exempt from using fully black rendering type of people. That typically is a practice in our field because we don't want the attention on the people, but rather to show that just to show that people are here and this is a very populated place and we can imagine people being in this area. So proportion is key when you're talking about people because this is a part that makes it realistic. So what I'm going to do is actually draw a couple lines inside of here to show where that door height is and where it follows across the image, right? That one was a bit too low. So just about right there. Now, the people should all be at the same height, no matter where they are in the image. Some will be shorter, but their heads should be all along the same line if they're about the same age, about 6 feet tall, right? And this is going right up to the door, so we actually want to make them a little bit shorter because they need to fit inside of the door. That'll make more sense when I look at people closer to the door. Let's go with this guy. Command T to resize. And so his head would be about there if he was walking that direction, but he's not because he would be going into this store here. So I'm gonna put him about right there as if he's walking to that business. Maybe a little closer, actually. Yep, just about like that. I'll go ahead and add a couple more people. Looking for a specific one, but yes, this one, because this is a really fun one. And you can see that this one actually came with a white background because it was a fake PNG, which happens a lot. So when I went to the magic eraser tool, this image popped up. It must be rasterized, and just press OK so that you can begin editing it. Just like that. I'm going to grab the inside of those places that aren't alone. All right, get out of that and then go back to resizing. Command T. And I'm looking at that adult's head to see where she lines up with the rest of the people in this image right now, because the child is, of course, shorter. So I also want to add a person right here. Actually, this child and mother make it look a little bit busy, but that'll change once we change the opacity on them because they are further away. So I'm going to add a person right here and also someone sitting on that bench over there. The more people, the better, but you also don't want them to become distracting. And like we came into the problem earlier, she's actually facing the wrong direction as well, so we need to rotate her. Let's see if we can do it inside of here. Image rotation, see that says flip canvas horizontally, which would make it the wrong direction. That's not what we're trying to do here. Let's bring her into her own Photoshop, into her own, let's bring her into her own Photoshop document, I guess, and then we will rotate her this way. Go copy, and then we're going to paste her in. Now she's facing the right direction. Resize her. She's sitting, so she's not going to be along that line with the rest of the people. And if that looks right, about so. Maybe she's a little too big. Just eyeballing it. Yeah, that looks just fine. And then one more person here. Since everyone in Boulder does love dogs, maybe we can put a man walking his dog, but that doesn't really fit the theme of this place. People are shopping, so let's do